What's up, everybody? This is Aziel here with the first NBA video and maybe the first video in general. You guys may have seen clips here and there, but yes, this may be the first ever video gets posted on the channel. And what do you think of the new setup? We got the new setup here. We're going to be talking basketball. The dust has settled within the trade deadlines. Teams have been finalized for the end of the year. There may be some players who got waived that are going to get signed to maybe the championship contenders, but we're going to be talking about who's the biggest losers, who's the biggest winners, and who just after this trade deadline. We got to talk about the biggest trade that went down. Obviously, James Harden was able to sneak his way out of the Clippers in a messy format. Word agents coming out saying that he requested a trade, and then him coming out being like, I didn't. Kawhi saying, do what you got to do. And I'm like, so he was able to sneak his way out of the Clippers because, Clippers with Kawhi was load management, and then Bradley Beal being out the season. And your boy's a Wizards fan, so you know how the Bradley Beal thing. Zubac leaving, he ends up leaving. So I was on the camp that maybe James Harden doesn't win a championship. Maybe just not in his future. I was fully on board with what Nick Wright had. His editor, act like I'm not the editor. Post a clip right here of Nick Wright just flaming him. Go right here.
I would not trade Darius Garland for James Harden under any circumstances. All this guy does is quit on teams and fold in the playoffs. For a decade, first year with the Clippers in the playoffs, he goes 2 for 12 and then 5 for 16 in games 5 and 6. The Clippers swallow it. Then last year, in Game 7, goes 2 for 8, and they give him an extension. And the team is finally winning this year, months after the extension. He doesn't show up for work in Phoenix, goes to an Arizona State basketball game 10 minutes from where his team is playing basketball. They call it personal reasons, and he demands a trade. You can't win with this guy. He's an all-time great player and an all-time great quitter and an all-time great choker. That is what his NBA legacy is.
But after doing my own research, your boy's from the DMV, so your boy doesn't watch Clippers games night and day. But after breaking down his stats, seeing what he's been doing, what have you done for me right now, James Harden? And it turns out he's been playing really great, and it makes sense that the Cavaliers are now tied with the New York Knicks as favorites to come out the East for the championship. Believe it or not, when I was thinking about videos all the way at the beginning of the season, of the NBA season, I had the Knicks, believe it or not, on God, I had the Knicks going to the finals. They end up winning the NBA Cup, whatever that means. But I do, and I still have the Knicks going to the finals. But now the Cavaliers are tied with them as favorites to hit the finals. We're going to be breaking down some specific stats on why James Harden can get them over the hump and get them maybe championship bound this season. Some of the great stats I have right here is that James Harden currently is third in the NBA with 8.1 assists, which is great to see when you have big men like Jared Allen, like Evan Mobley, who can play well off the pick and roll. And you have that backcourt. You have to think about the backcourt synergy that's going on right now in Cleveland with James Harden. With his presence as a primary ball handler, it allows Donovan Mitchell to play comfortably off the ball. Because before the trade, Donovan Mitchell had a heavy workload because he had to deal with the injuries that Darius Garland going for it. Just to be, just break it simple as terms, James Harden got traded from the Clippers to Cavaliers for Darius Garland, if you've been living under a rock. But so based off numbers, James Harden is definitely an upgrade than Darius Garland. When you break down, James Harden has more points, points per game. Points per game, more assists, more rebounds, and his free throw percentage is better. The only thing Darius Garland beats him in is field goal percentage, which isn't by a lot. It's only by 3%. So it's just great to see that they get another guy, a guy who is a pure scorer as James Harden is. He allows Donovan Mitchell less workload, lets them play off the ball. It just gives them more options. Because I always thought of James Harden, he's always just running from the grind. He was always running from the grind, always trying to make a dynamic duo here, trying to make a super team over there. But it looks like with this team, the way to win a championship is that everybody has to contribute. And there are going to be games, you're going to see it. I'm going to predict it right now in the playoffs and in the finals. You're going to see guys, bench players who go off. You're going to need guys who have that dog in them, who can put up that one game where they put up 25, 30 points. Just that random guy that's not even the superstar of the team. So that's what you need. And James Harden has a ton of experience, a ton of playoff experience. He has played in about 173 playoff games, which is third most among all players. That's the type of leadership you want when you have some of these younger guys, when you have these guys who don't have that experience in the playoffs, who doesn't have that much experience in championship game. I mean, it's been a long time. In the bright lights, we're going to have to see, like you saw in that clip from Nick Wright, you're going to have to see how James Harden plays with the Cleveland Cavaliers. What can they do? Like I said, as of right now, they're favorites. What do you guys think of the Cleveland Cavaliers heading into the postseason. Are they championship bound with James Harden? You guys let me know. Now we got to talk about the best trade that happened before the trade deadline. Definitely not being biased at all, but we got to talk about AD, a Disney, Anthony Davis heading to Washington. All these teams that could have got AD and the Washington Wizards going, give me that. We're going to do it. We're going to take a chance on them. And you know, there is a big chance when it comes to AD because you got to consider everything that comes along with him, that contract he has, and his health because he suffered a laundry. Look, I think I can find a post how many injuries he's had so far this season. He's only played 20 games. And he's already on his tomfoolery because he's not even going to suit up as a Wizard this season. To be fully healthy for next season. Hopefully, we can all pray for that. But when your boy first got the notification, I was like, oh my God, we probably traded one of our young stars, whether that be Bilal, Bob Carrington, Keyshawn George, our first round pick for the next 3 years. And then to find out that the assets we traded for AD, we weren't going to use them for the long term anyway, when you have to consider like Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson. And then the first round picks we did trade for him weren't even ours. They were, I believe, posted right here. But I believe they were Golden State and OKC, which are going to be high picks regardless because they're going to be playing for championships these upcoming seasons. So it's just great to see. I'm not saying for the low or for the free, but I'm just saying the assets we traded for AD aren't going to hurt us in the long run. And you got to, like I said, you got to consider the ups. I think there's a lot more ups than downs when it comes to AD because the Wizards, they're already a bottom tier team. Like they're already top 3 projected to get top 3 projected pick. There we go. Top 3 projected pick. Try saying that 3 times fast. They're already at the bottom. They can't go any lower. I mean, they can technically. They're not the lowest, but they're already a low team. They're already teams around the league don't take them seriously. So what's the worst that could happen? You taking a chance with AD. I think there's a lot more ups than downs. We're going to be breaking it down. First of all, we got to consider the duo that can be the first duo of these mountains of guys. You have AD at the power forward, and then you have Alex Starr, who's currently second in blocks per game. You have those two elite rim protection right there. You have to consider who's going to want to drive into the paint when you have both these guys. And then with having both of them, it does lower the workload for both. You have AD, like I said, he's been injured. And then you have Alex Starr, who's still coming up in this league, still trying to find his play style. So if anything, Anthony Davis could be that mentor, take him under his wing. He's a champion back in that Disney ring, that Disney World ring that they got back in 2020 AD. Take him to show him how to become that elite defender, to be that elite center that Alex Starr can be, that we're hoping he is. Wizard fans, he could be the franchise of this team for the next upcoming years. So you got to think of that elite protection. And then that starting lineup, you got to consider Trae Young, Trae Johnson, Keyshawn George, Anthony Davis, Alex Starr. I've already seen the meme. People are like, but how many games are they all going to play together? Because I've seen pictures of them comparing them to that Brooklyn Nets team when they had KD, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. And I think they only played like, 17 games all together, all 3 of them on the court at the same time. So you hope that doesn't happen. But it's even with AD just playing 20 games this season, already being shut off, he's not going to play. He averaged 20.4 points per game and 11.1 rebounds per game. So think of how good he could play when you have Trae Young's elite passing, creating lanes, creating opportunity not only for AD, but also Alex Starr. You have Bilal Coulibaly, Bob Carrington, Keyshawn George, some certified buckets. Where do these Wizards stand when it comes to next season? Like I said, I'm not saying first. I'm not saying championship bound. Now, if that does happen, then obviously I wouldn't be mad. But to take them over the hump, to get to that, can this be the Wizards next season, be their first time getting a winning record? You guys let me know how good can this team be, because we also got to consider Anthony Davis' contract. He is signed until 2027-28 season, where you're going to have to pay him next season $58.5 million. And then the season after that, $62.8 million. The Wizards have that money to spare. The Wizards are not, the front office is not like before where they just throw money to players who didn't deserve it, players who didn't need it, and then just throwing out their prime. So this front office, the GMs, they know they've been GMing pretty good. So I do have faith in them. They know what they're doing. They're running a masterclass on getting Trae Young. They were able to get Trae Young and AD in the same season without giving no young players their young core, no first round of their own. So I do believe this is a great step in the right direction to be considered a threat, to be considered, not, like I said, not number one, not championship, but to get to that next tier. Where do the Wizards rank among all Eastern teams? Can you see them hitting the playoffs, or would this just crash and burn like that Brooklyn Nets team that don't equivalent to anything at all? Comment down below where do you think the Wizards will stand next season. So those who I consider the winners, we had that speculation. I had no idea about James Harden getting traded. I was like, you think it's gonna happen? But I was like, I wouldn't put money on it. But you did know that Trae Young, that AD were gonna get traded. And then you had guys, who had the majority of when you were hearing about trade talks this whole season, the biggest names that came to fruition were the Bucks with Giannis and Memphis with Ja. They were the most smack, especially from Giannis. I like Giannis, but him coming out with all this talking, he needs to go here, he needs to go there, like he needs to go consider a new home, and then like go right here, post it right here. What was the quote? It was like, legends don't chase it, come to me. Bro, you were talking all that smack about leaving the Bucks, and then you end up going nowhere. That's why I consider one of the losers in this trade deadline. Memphis for sure, because they end up getting rid of Jaren Jackson. He ends up going to the Utah Jazz. He gonna perform well. They create a little tree over there with the Jazz, and then all this talk about Ja, I think having career lows, or he's having a bad season for sure. And then talking about the coach's play style wasn't with his play style, and then you thought he was gonna get traded, but then I believe you weren't even gonna get a lot of like up on him. Like other teams, from what I understand, weren't willing to trade a lot. His value has gone down. Other losers I'm seeing is the Miami Heat. They made no moves at all, but I believe in Pat Riley. I believe in what they do in Miami. Miami always comes up towards the end of the season, the playoffs. So also with the Bucks, with Giannis, I heard there was talks about Golden State. Golden State were the favorites to get Giannis, and then I think Milwaukee backed out of it, like nah, all this and all that. And then who do the Golden State Warriors end up getting? They end up getting Tingus Pingus.
Who the fuck is this? Who the fuck is Tingus Pingus? I never heard of fucking Latvia.
They end up getting Porzingis, which I do believe is a good fit. Wizards legend Tingus Pingus. I do like Porzingis, and he can provide great value for the Golden State Warriors. Could be a great rim protector. He is an elite defensive anchor that can allow Draymond Green to play, a little less role because we all know Mr. Triple Singles right there, Draymond Green. He's not really good when it comes to that defensive pressure, and then he can space out the floor because Tingus Pingus, he does have a good 3-point shot on him. He can create opportunities. He can create open drives for Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, and then he does have a career average of 19.6 points per game. But just like AD, Tingus Pingus does come with a lot of injuries. He's missed 35 out of the last 52 games this season. He has some injuries here and there. So I hope Tingus Pingus, he does good with the Golden State Warriors. I also do believe in Jaren Jackson right there with the Utah Jazz. They're building a little squad over there. But then who do you guys consider the losers? Do you consider the Bucks the losers? Do you consider the Grizzlies? I mean, a lot of people are saying the Bulls. They traded away almost everybody there. What was a couple years ago when they were the first? They were the first in the East, and to get rid of all those players. Who do you guys consider the winners? Who do you guys consider the losers of this trade deadline? You guys let me know in the comments down below. But like I said, this is maybe the first NBA video, and also the first ever video on the channel. I gotta, it's a little too long. I'm gonna cut it here and there, but I do appreciate. I think everybody who's gonna see this, who stayed towards the end, I think it's all the boys. So I appreciate all the boys who were telling me keep going, keep doing your thing. You were doing good at your old, old occupation, but now I'm doing it solo now. So I really do appreciate it. We will be creating content. Next video, I do believe, is my Super Bowl predictions. So that video may be coming out tomorrow, Super Bowl day, Super Bowl Sunday. Who do you guys, let me know, comment down below who you got. Seahawks and Patriots. That's going to be the next video. But I'm Aziel Mejia, and I'll see you in the next one.